They didn't realize they were being watched until it was already too late. In this video, we have a woman discovers a note on her door, short, anonymous, and far too personal. Another finds subtle signs that someone's been inside without ever breaking in. And lastly, we have a skeptic who plays with a strange old Ouija board and learns some things don't like to be disturbed. If the first two stories make you uneasy, the last one will have you questioning what you've welcomed into your home.
I moved to Austin a few months ago. I'm 26 and work remotely in tech. It wasn't some dramatic leap of faith. I'd been planning to move for a while. Portland had gotten stale, and I wanted something new. More sun, better food, maybe even people who smiled once in a while. I got a one-bedroom in this mid-rise building off East 6th. It was small but new. A balcony, in-unit laundry, big windows. Third floor, Unit 3B. It felt good, like mine. I didn't know anyone in the city when I moved, which was weird at first. The only social interaction I got some weeks was with the barista down the street, or the dog that always barked from someone's patio across the courtyard. But for the most part, I liked being alone, the quiet, the space. That's probably why I noticed him so quickly. He lived next door, in 3A. A guy, maybe early 30s, kinda tall, shaved head, always wearing the same black hoodie and worn-out Vans. We never really talked. He'd nod if we passed in the hallway, but that was it. I figured he worked nights or just didn't like people. I'm not the most outgoing either, so I didn't think much of it. At first, the first weird thing happened on a Sunday morning. I opened my door to head out for breakfast tacos, and taped to it was an envelope. Plain white. No name, no handwriting on the outside. Just stuck there with a piece of blue painter's tape. Inside was a small card. 5 words. You're interesting to watch. That's it. No signature, no context. I stood there for a solid minute, just holding it. I kept rereading it like it would make more sense the second or third time. But it didn't. I thought maybe it was a prank, a mistake, someone taping the wrong thing to the wrong door. But my gut was already starting to twist. I didn't tell anyone. What would I even say? Instead, I kept the card, shoved it in a drawer under my silverware, and tried to let it go. Told myself it was just a weird blip. I stopped leaving my blinds open after that. I hadn't realized how visible my apartment was until that day. The layout faced an inner courtyard, and if my lights were on at night, you could basically see everything I was doing. Working at the island, brushing my teeth, changing clothes if I wasn't paying attention. The idea that someone might have been watching me made my skin crawl. A few nights later, I was up working late. Around 1:30 a.m., I got up to refill my water and paused at the balcony door. I thought I saw movement, a shadow pulling back from the glass. I stood there staring into the darkness. It could have been anything. A neighbor upstairs, a reflection, even a bird flying by the security light. That's what I told myself, but I made sure the balcony door was locked, pulled the blinds tight, and double-checked the front door too, just in case. The next morning I checked my Ring app. I had one of those peephole cameras that records motion, but nothing was there. No clips, no alerts. I started sleeping with my white noise machine on full blast. I didn't want to hear the small noises anymore, but then the scratching started. I know how that sounds. Scratching, like I'm making it up, but I swear, it was real. It was subtle at first. Just this soft, dragging sound outside my door, like fingertips running slowly across the hallway wall. The first time, I thought it was my upstairs neighbor. Maybe walking their dog, maybe drunk, maybe carrying something heavy. But it happened again and again. Always between 2 and 3 a.m., always when I was alone and awake. One night I heard a single knock, Not even a knock, more like a tap. One sharp, deliberate tap right at the center of my door. I jumped out of bed and ran to the peephole, my hands shaking. No one was there. But when I checked the camera feed the next day, I finally saw it. The figure was hooded, still, just standing directly in front of my door for a full 27 seconds, not moving. It was like he knew exactly where the lens was. He stood just off to the side so you could only see the curve of his shoulder and the edge of his face. The second the light on the ring blinked on, he stepped back into the dark. I sent the clip to the leasing office. They told me they'd look into it. Said they'd review the building footage and talk to security. When I asked them if anyone else had reported anything weird, they said no. No break-ins, no suspicious activity, just me. A few days later, I crashed at a friend's place. I needed a break. I felt stupid for being scared of my own apartment, but I hadn't slept well in weeks. I kept jolting awake at random hours, certain I'd heard a voice or footsteps or the squeak of my balcony door. When I came back the next morning, I found something under the mat. It was a folded hoodie, black. Size small, still warm from the dryer, and taped to the inside of my door frame, just like before, was another card. You weren't home. I missed watching you. That's when I stopped brushing it off. I called the police. They came out, asked questions, took photos, dusted the door frame for prints, but there was nothing useful. No fingerprints, no forced entry, no name. They took the hoodie as evidence, but said it was unlikely anything would come of it. I gave them the ring footage, too. The officer, a guy maybe in his 40s with that worn-down look, glanced at me and said, "You did the right thing. Trust your gut. Keep your doors locked." That was it. The next day, I knocked on the door to 3A. No answer. I went to the front desk again and asked about the guy who lived next to me. The leasing manager hesitated, then said he'd moved out suddenly. No forwarding address, no official notice. Just gone. But here's the thing, I never saw him move. No boxes, no movers, no trucks. He was just there one day and then gone the next, like he vanished. I broke my lease the week after, paid the penalty, packed in a day. I found a unit in a completely different part of the city. Busier, noisier, more foot traffic. I needed the noise. The first week in the new place, I left every light on at night. I slept with my phone under my pillow and a kitchen knife on my nightstand. It took me over a month to feel like I could exhale. But even now, I catch myself watching shadows out my window. I never leave the blinds open. I check my Ring app 3-4 times a day. And sometimes when I'm walking to my car, I get this feeling, like I'm being followed. I'll glance over my shoulder and nothing's there, but I always check because to this day, I still don't know who he was, or how long he'd been watching me before I noticed. And I don't know if he ever really left.
I've lived in LA for almost 5 years now. I work as a graphic designer for a mid-sized tech company near Mid-Wilshire. Nothing glamorous. I know when people think of LA, they picture movie stars and influencers and overpriced lattes. But my life here has always been pretty regular. Commute, deadlines, Trader Joe's runs, rinse, repeat. I've lived in the same apartment the whole time. A quiet little building tucked just behind a strip of restaurants and medical offices. It's mostly young professionals, pretty safe. Secure garage, code entry, package lockers. I liked it because it wasn't flashy, just simple and clean. Things were fine for a long time. Until they weren't. The first thing that made me feel weird happened in the garage. It was a Wednesday night. I had stayed late at work, fixing some ridiculous last-minute design change. I got home around 9:30. As I pulled into the garage, I noticed a man standing near the corner, just inside the gate, behind one of the support columns. He wasn't near a car, just standing there. When I parked and got out, I looked around, but he was gone. I convinced myself I had just imagined it. The lighting in the garage is dim, those weird yellowish overheads that hum just loud enough to make you feel like you're underwater. Maybe it was a shadow. Maybe he had ducked into his car. I didn't like how fast my heart was racing, though. The next day, I asked my neighbor Sam if she'd seen anything weird in the garage lately. She shook her head and said no. I dropped it. But that night, when I went to throw out the trash, I noticed something else. There was a Post-it note stuck to my driver's side window. Yellow. Neat handwriting. Nice lipstick. That day I had worn red, something I rarely did. It had been one of those fake-it-till-you-make-it mornings, so I dressed up to feel more confident. But suddenly, it felt like a mistake. I looked around the garage, empty. I peeled the note off, stuffed it in my pocket, and went back upstairs. I didn't sleep well that night. Every sound felt sharper. Every creak in the hallway turned my head. Still, I didn't want to overreact. LA is full of weird people, and this could have been nothing. A few days passed. Then came the package. I had ordered a phone charger from Amazon, nothing special, but when I went to grab it from the locker, there was a second box with it. No label, no address, just a small black box taped shut. Inside was a tube of red lipstick, same shade I had worn earlier that week. No note this time. No name. I remember just staring at it for a full minute before closing the box and walking straight to the building manager's office. Her name's Linda. Older woman, super helpful. She took it seriously, pulled up the locker camera footage, and said she had notified the company that manages the lockers. But when I asked if she'd seen anyone suspicious in the garage or the hallways, she gave me that LA shrug. "You never really know people around here," she said. "I started parking on the street after that, just to avoid the garage. It wasn't ideal. It meant walking a block or two at night, but I felt less trapped. A week later, I got home after grabbing dinner with a friend. It was maybe 10:15 p.m. I parked on the street like usual, walked up the sidewalk, and entered the building through the back gate. And I swear, the second I stepped into the hallway, I felt something. It's hard to explain, like the air was heavier, like I was being watched. I didn't hear footsteps, didn't see anyone, but when I reached my door, my doormat was flipped upside down. Not like blown by wind, like someone had deliberately picked it up and put it back down wrong. It was such a small thing, but I froze. Then I noticed my peephole. There was something covering it from the outside. I didn't even unlock the door. I turned and practically sprinted back down the hallway, out through the front of the building. I sat in my car with the doors locked and just breathed for a few minutes. I called Sam, asked if she was home. She was, thankfully. I explained everything, and she let me crash on her couch that night. The next morning, we went back to my apartment together. The thing covering the peephole was a round sticker, matte black, same size as the lens. Carefully placed, perfectly centered, like someone had planned it. I filed a police report that afternoon. They sent a patrol car to do a walkthrough, took down my statement, told me to keep my doors locked and to call if anything else happened. That was the part that scared me most. If anything else happens. They were expecting it. I bought a doorbell camera the same day. It didn't fit perfectly on my unit door, but I got it rigged up. Motion alerts, two-way audio, everything. I started carrying pepper spray, changed my routine, parked in different places every night. For a little while, things were quiet. Until last Friday. I got home around 8 p.m. and checked the camera feed out of habit. There was a notification from earlier that afternoon. Motion detected, 3:18 p.m. I opened the clip. It was short, 7 seconds.
A man, maybe late 30s or early 40s, standing at my door, hoodie pulled low over his face. He didn't knock, didn't do anything. He just stood there. Then he slowly leaned forward and pressed his face against the peephole, right where the sticker had been weeks ago, and smiled. I couldn't see his full face, just his mouth and the curve of his jaw. But the way he smiled, slow, confident, it made my blood run cold. That smile said, "I'm not done yet." I called the police again, gave them the footage. This time they promised to increase patrols in the area, but I haven't seen a single officer since. And last night, when I got home, there was a new post-it, bright yellow, on the door this time. Still looks good in red. The thing is, I wasn't wearing red yesterday, but I had been 2 nights before, inside my apartment, with the blinds drawn, but not all the way. So now I'm wondering, was he watching from across the street? Or did he come inside? I don't know which is worse. I've since applied to move out. Gave notice to my landlord. The lease buyout fee is expensive, but I don't care anymore. I keep telling myself that once I'm in a new place, new locks, new walls, it'll stop, but a small part of me knows. People like that don't just give up. They learn your patterns, they follow your habits, they wait until you feel safe again, and then they smile. I never believed in any of that stuff. Ghosts, demons, Ouija boards just seemed like the kind of thing people made up to scare each other at sleepovers. I've always been a pretty rational guy. I mean, I work in IT. I troubleshoot things for a living. If you can't explain it, you're probably missing something obvious. That's how I've always seen the world, or at least that's how I used to see it. A couple months ago, my buddy Adam brought over a Ouija board. Not the kind from Target either. This thing looked old, like actual wood, carved letters. Even the planchette had this weird black film on the underside. He said he found it at a flea market in Pasadena. Said the guy who sold it to him told him not to disrespect it. I laughed at that. We both did. We were drinking, just hanging out, and figured it'd be funny to see if anything happened. I live alone in a 2-bedroom condo just outside Burbank. Nothing fancy. Small patio, dim lighting, and that night, the vibe just kinda fit. We lit some candles, turned off the lights, and sat across from each other on the living room floor. It was stupid. We weren't taking it seriously. Half the time we were asking it dumb stuff like, is Adam going to die alone? Or, how many beers until we see a ghost? But after a few minutes, the planchette started moving. At first I thought Adam was messing with me. Then he accused me of doing it. We went back and forth like that until it spelled out a single word, home. That actually made me pause, not because it was creepy, but because it didn't make sense. We hadn't asked a question. The board just spelled home on its own. I asked jokingly, "Is this your home?" It slid to, "Yes." Adam snorted. "Well then get the hell out, it's my buddy's house." The planchette stopped. We waited. Nothing happened. No wind, no flickering lights, no spooky whispers. So we wrapped it up, made a couple jokes about summoning Casper, and went back to watching YouTube. I didn't think about it again until that night. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to a loud bang in the living room. My heart shot up into my throat. I laid there listening. Another bang, like something falling. Not crashing, more like heavy footsteps. I grabbed the bat I keep by the bed and crept out. Every light was off, but the glow from the street light through my blinds gave just enough to see by. The candles were still on the coffee table. The Ouija board was gone. I checked under the table. Nothing. Found it later, leaning against the hallway wall, standing upright. I didn't put it there. The next few nights were filled with small stuff. The hall light would turn on by itself. My kitchen faucet dripped no matter how tight I shut it. Once I came home and the TV was on, static playing, volume maxed out. I hadn't touched it. Then things started happening at night. Every time I'd try to sleep, I'd hear footsteps in the hallway. Slow, uneven, sometimes shuffling, sometimes dragging. One night, I left my bedroom door cracked open, just an inch. Around 2:40 a.m., I woke up freezing. I mean freezing, like I was outside. I looked toward the hallway, and I swear to God, someone was standing there. Just the outline of them. A figure. Tall, still. When I blinked, it was gone. That was the first night I actually said something out loud. I whispered, "Okay, you made your point. Just stop, all right?" But it didn't stop. It got worse. Doors would slam shut in the middle of the day. I started noticing cold spots, one right in front of the hall closet, another by the bathroom sink. One morning, I came out and found every cabinet in the kitchen wide open. But it was the whispering that broke me. It started faint, like wind through the vents. But then I began hearing my name. Always when I was alone, sometimes when I was in the shower, or right as I was falling asleep. Mark! Once I heard it right in my ear. I jumped out of bed and checked the apartment from top to bottom. Nothing. That same night, I tried to throw the board away, drove it down to the dumpster, tossed it in, and slammed the lid. The next morning, it was on my coffee table again. No joke. No one has a key to my place. I even checked the door locks. Nothing was tampered with. I called Adam and told him everything. He went dead silent for a while, then admitted he hadn't been sleeping either. He said weird stuff had started happening at his place too. Doors creaking open, lights flickering, stuff disappearing and reappearing in random places. We both agreed to try burning the board. We drove to the hills that night, took the board and the planchette in a box, lit it on fire. It took forever to catch. The wood didn't burn like normal wood. It just blackened, and the smoke smelled like chemicals. We watched it turn to ash. That was about 2 weeks ago. I thought it was over. But the thing is, it's not. I still hear the footsteps. I still feel cold patches in my hall. Sometimes when I'm walking past my mirror, I swear I see someone standing just behind me. Tall, dark, unmoving, gone when I look again. And the worst part, last night a package showed up at my door, no return address. Inside was a brand new Ouija board, same design, same film under the planchette. I didn't open it. I didn't even bring it inside. It's still sitting outside by the trash, but I know if I throw it away, it'll come back. And now, I'm starting to wonder if it ever left at all.